they told you it was just a scribble, a quirky little drawing, a symbol to decorate journals, tattoos, or the corners of occult books. Something cute, something harmless, something mystical, but only in aesthetic. But what if they were wrong? What if sigils aren't just symbols, but spells in motion? Not drawings, but conscious technology. Because the real secret, the one ancient initiates knew and modern seekers are remembering, is this: a sigil is not just something you look at. A sigil is something you become. It is not ink on paper. It is a command written in the language of energy, a personal algorithm that speaks not to your eyes but to your subconscious, and through the subconscious, to the universe itself. Let's stop right here and say what most won't. The modern world has taught us to fear power, to reduce the sacred into metaphor, to strip spiritual tools of their fire and reduce them to decoration. But magicians didn't draw sigils for style. They drew them for results. To bend reality, to reshape probability, to seed intention into the very matrix of experience. Because that's what a sigil is. A sigil is not a plea to the heavens. It is a directive, a focused beam of will, compressed into a shape so primal that even the subconscious cannot deny it. You don't beg when you create a sigil. You declare. You do not ask for permission. You generate alignment between mind, emotion, and energy. It is the ultimate technology of the inner world. But unlike machines, sigils don't run on wires or batteries. They run on frequency. Your frequency. The energy you embody in the moment of creation. The clarity of your intent, the stillness of your belief, the fire of your release. And here's the thing no one tells you. You don't even need to believe in magic for a sigil to work. Why? Because sigils don't operate on belief. They operate on mechanics, inner mechanics, that are hardwired into your energetic structure. When created properly, a sigil bypasses your conscious doubt and implants itself into your subconscious like a seed. And the subconscious, the dream maker, the pattern reader, the silent architect of your life, accepts it as law. Not because it's true, but because you encoded it as truth. And once it's planted, reality bends subtly at first. Then obviously, synchronicities begin. The right people show up. The obstacles shift. You change from the inside out, and so the world around you must reflect that shift. This is not wishful thinking. This is manifestation by design. In a world of distraction, sigils are focus. In a world of noise, sigils are clarity. In a world of unconscious action, sigils are sovereign creation. But don't mistake their simplicity for weakness. The most powerful tools have always been the simplest: a circle, a line, a shape, a whisper of will burned into symbol. Sigils aren't made with the intellect. They're forged with presence. And once you know how to wield them truly, deeply, you stop chasing reality and start shaping it. Not through force, not through control, but through vibration tuned precisely, personally, powerfully. So, the next time someone tells you a sigil is just a symbol, smile, because you know the truth. A sigil isn't what you see, it's what it does. And what it does is shift reality. Before there were books, before there were alphabets, before humanity even knew how to record history, there were symbols, etched into cave walls, carved into stone altars, drawn in blood, ash, ochre. These weren't decorations, they were transmissions. The earliest humans didn't draw for art, they drew for power, to commune, to command, to connect. Because deep down, They knew something we've only just begun to remember. Symbols speak the language of the universe. Long before the word sigil was ever spoken, its essence lived in the sacred glyphs of the Sumerians, the spirals of the Neolithic shamans, the Ankh of Egypt, and the runes of the Norse. These weren't random marks, they were keys. Keys to energy, keys to spirit, keys to the invisible. To the ancient mind, drawing a symbol was a sacred act, a form of resonance. They believed no. They knew that shape carried vibration. That intention could be crystallized into image, and that image could echo into reality. The sigil was born long before we had a word for it. And then came structure. Temples were built, rituals refined, mystery schools formed to guard what the masses could not understand. The Egyptians encoded sigils into their headdresses, their sacred art, the blueprints of their temples. The Greeks built their entire magical systems around geometry and intention. In the East, mandalas, yantras, and calligraphy served as spiritual portals, visual mantras, pulsing with divine charge. But it was in the shadows of Europe's magical underground where sigil magic took a modern form. And one name would change everything. Austin Osman Spare. Born in 1886 in London, Spare wasn't a scholar of high occult tradition. He wasn't initiated in grand temples or robed societies. He was a mystic of the raw and inner world, a visionary, an artist, a heretic of the imagination. And he discovered something revolutionary, that you didn't need to invoke a pantheon of gods. You didn't need elaborate rituals. You didn't even need belief in traditional magic. You only needed two things: focused intention and access to the subconscious. Spare's sigils weren't lifted from ancient scrolls. They were crafted from language, personal affirmations, desires, commands collapsed into symbols through a sacred process of simplification. Write a statement of intent, remove repeated letters, recombine them into a new glyph, charge it with emotion, then forget it. Let the subconscious take over. He called this sigilization, and unknowingly, he birthed one of the most potent systems of practical magic in the modern world. His work would go on to influence chaos magic, a movement that broke free from dogma and ritualism, focusing instead on results. Where older traditions required strict hierarchy and years of initiation, chaos magic said, reality is fluid, belief is a tool, and the universe responds to intent, not tradition. Sigils in this system became weapons of will, tools of psychological hacking, magic not as fantasy, but as applied consciousness. And suddenly, magic was no longer reserved for the elite. Anyone with a pen and a purpose could create. Sigils became punk. They became rebellion. They became remembrance in a world that had forgotten its power. Today, we see echoes of this revival everywhere. In tattoos, in corporate logos, in the strange symbols on dollar bills and luxury branding, in social media aesthetics and underground art. Some use them consciously, others unconsciously. But the effect remains. Where intention meets image, manifestation begins. This is not new, it's ancient, as old as the stars, as deep as the dreamtime. We are not inventing sigils, we are rediscovering them. And as we do, the walls between worlds begin to thin. Because every time you draw a sigil with clarity, you're doing what your ancestors did. You're reaching into the formless and pulling reality into shape. You've been trained to believe that reality is built on logic, that only what can be measured is real, that numbers rule the world, that language must be linear, rational, explainable. But your soul knows better. Because before you learned to speak, you learned to see. Before you understood words, you felt shapes. You recognized patterns. You responded to form, color, geometry. This isn't poetry. It's neurobiology. The subconscious, that vast, mysterious part of your mind, does not think in words. It speaks in symbols, in emotion, in imagery. It doesn't understand, "I want abundance." It understands a circle filled with intention, a glyph pulsing with will. And that is exactly what a sigil is. A compressed symbol, charged with emotional resonance, designed to bypass the logical mind and speak directly to the field of creation. But why does this work? Because the universe itself is symbolic. From the spiraling galaxies to the geometry of a pine cone, from the shape of your cells to the pattern of your breath, everything is built on form, on frequency, on sacred geometry. This isn't just ancient mysticism. It's scientific truth. Modern physics tells us that beneath matter is vibration, that particles aren't solid, they're probability clouds, that the universe behaves less like a machine and more like a conscious pattern. And what is a sigil, if not a pattern infused with consciousness? The ancients knew this intuitively. That's why their sacred symbols, the flower of life, the pentacle, the triquetra, weren't just cultural. They were universal codes, resonant with natural law. These shapes didn't just symbolize energy, they carried it. A triangle isn't just a triangle. It's the base of manifestation, thought, emotion, and action. A circle isn't just a shape. It's the womb of creation, the zero-point field, the infinite loop of spirit returning to itself. A spiral? It's the signature of the cosmos, from your DNA to the galaxies. Your subconscious sees these shapes and remembers. It recognizes their meaning without needing to think. This is why sigils work so deeply. When you craft a sigil, even if you're just using a stylized combination of letters, you're creating a unique frequency pattern, a pattern your subconscious accepts as truth, not because it's logically sound, but because it's viscerally encoded. Think of your subconscious like fertile soil. Your conscious mind is the gardener. Words are just seeds, but symbols? Symbols are genetically engineered seedlings designed to grow quickly, deeply, powerfully. And when you combine that symbol with emotion, the water that nourishes the soil, and action, the sunlight that brings it to life, you get manifestation. Not abstract, not philosophical, real. That's the hidden mechanic most ignore. It's not just about making a pretty drawing. It's about creating a shape that your subconscious believes in, a symbol that holds resonance. You don't have to understand how a radio works to tune in, and you don't have to fully understand sigils to use them. You only need to feel their truth, because they don't speak to your intellect. They speak to the part of you that dreams, that heals, that remembers how to shape reality. In a world addicted to language, logic, and reason, symbols are revolution. They are the secret language of the soul. They are how the universe speaks back. And when you draw a sigil, you are not just creating a shape on a page. You are writing a spell in the language of the infinite. Now that we've broken the illusion that sigils are just symbols, that they're superstition or aesthetic, it's time to pull back the curtain and ask, how do they actually work? Not metaphorically, not theoretically, but energetically, practically, in real time. Because the process of sigil creation isn't just a magical ritual, it's a universal mechanism. It reflects the very same pattern used by the cosmos to create worlds, used by your mind to manifest thoughts, used by spirit to descend into form. Let's break it down. Step 1. Intention. Every creation begins with a spark, a desire, a knowing, a focused will. This is where you speak your reality into being, but not with noise, with clarity. I desire abundance. I am healing. My path is unfolding with purpose. The first secret of sigil craft is this: your intention must be present, tense, affirmative, and emotionally true. Not I want, but I am. Not someday, but now. You don't beg the universe. You align with it. Because if your desire is vague, your outcome will be too. Once your intention is solid, it becomes the seed. Step 2. Creation. Now we step into the sacred forge. The sentence becomes code. Remove the vowels. Drop the repeating consonants. Rearrange what's left into a glyph, a design that is unique, unfamiliar, and emotionally resonant. Why does this matter? Because the conscious mind must forget it, so the subconscious can receive it without resistance. This is where it gets fascinating. The very act of turning your intention into art, of encoding it into shape, is alchemy. You're turning thought into form, invisible into visible, potential into pattern. You've now crafted the sigil, a glyph not bound to language but to energy. Step 3. Activation, charging. A sigil without charge is just a sketch. To make it work, you must energize it, but not with electricity, with emotion, frequency, focus, fire. You need to raise your state through whatever means resonates with your soul. Asterisk, deep meditation. Asterisk, breath work. Asterisk, chanting or mantra. Asterisk, dancing or ecstatic movement. Asterisk, orgasmic energy. Yes, this is ancient practice. Asterisk, sudden emotional release. Laughter, tears, fear, elation. Why? Because in heightened states, the barrier between conscious and subconscious breaks down, and in that opening, the sigil can slip through. This is called charging. The sigil becomes more than a symbol. It becomes a program written into the field of your being. It begins vibrating, not just in your mind, but in the subtle realms, the quantum field, the energetic web where all things begin. Step 4. Release. Now comes the part most people miss. Forget it. Yes, seriously. Release it completely. Why? Because conscious attachment creates energetic friction. If you keep checking the sigil's progress, you're feeding it with doubt. You're reactivating the idea that it hasn't happened yet, which tells your subconscious and the universe to keep it at a distance. But when you release the sigil, burn it, bury it, hide it, or simply move on, you're saying, "This is already done. I don't need to chase it. I've become the version of me who already holds it." This is where manifestation meets surrender. It's not passive, it's powerful, because the energy has been launched. And from that moment on, the sigil begins to echo. In your thoughts, in your field, in the invisible pathways that bring people, opportunities, and events into alignment. The sigil doesn't do the work for you. It does the work through you. You'll start to notice shifts, synchronicities, sudden clarity, dreams that speak louder, moments that feel like déjà vu. These are the signals, the feedback of the universe realigning around your vibration. Because the sigil is not just a spell, it's a mirror, a reflection of who you're becoming, a reminder of what you've already claimed. a bridge between desire and embodiment. So next time you craft a sigil, remember, you are not hoping, you are not guessing, you are not playing. You are creating with precision, you are moving energy, you are aligning with source. You are not drawing a symbol, you are writing your future. You've created your sigil, you've charged it with energy, you've released it to the unknown. Now what? Where does that energy go? Does it just float off into nothingness? Vanish into a void? Get filed away in some cosmic suggestion box? Not even close. When you release a sigil, truly release it, emotionally and energetically, it doesn't disappear. It begins to echo, not in the physical world at first, but in a realm just beyond your five senses. The astral plane, the subtle layer between thought and form, the place where energy begins to crystallize, the blueprint realm, the invisible stage where reality rehearses before stepping into physical form. This isn't fantasy. Mystics have spoken of it for thousands of years. Shamans travel it. Lucid dreamers explore it. Occultists map it. And your sigil? It's a living imprint on that plane. Once charged and released, the sigil becomes a vibrational command, a pulse of structured energy that embeds itself into the astral field. Imagine the astral as a canvas, a fluid, shape-shifting sea of potential. When your sigil enters it, it carves a groove, a pathway, a ripple. And over time, through the power of resonance, the physical world begins to reorganize around that groove. People call it synchronicity, coincidence, serendipity. But it's not random. It's response. The universe is not inert. It listens. And more importantly, it mirrors. Because everything that exists in this world existed first in the unseen. Your thoughts, your dreams, your emotions, they live in the astral before they take form. So, when you create a sigil, you're not just hoping it works. You're planting a coded instruction into the invisible engine of reality. And from there, the astral does what it always does. It reflects what it receives. But here's the part most people miss. Your belief system acts as a filter. If you charge your sigil with desire, but underneath that desire is doubt, fear, unworthiness, then the imprint you make on the astral plane is fragmented. It's like drawing a perfect symbol, but smudging it before you send it. That's why inner work matters, because the astral doesn't respond to what you think you want. It responds to what you believe is possible. That's why charging a sigil isn't just about generating energy, it's about aligning with the version of yourself who already has the result. You become the signal, you become the match, and the universe responds in kind. This is where things get interesting, because sometimes you forget your sigil entirely. You move on, you focus on life, you forget the ritual. But weeks or months later, you notice something. A shift, a conversation, a dream that feels strangely familiar, an opportunity that seems to appear from nowhere. And suddenly it's happening. Not because you forced it, but because you let go. Because you allowed the energetic imprint to settle like dye in water. You gave the astral time to breathe your intention into shape. And that's when you realize your sigil never vanished. It became part of the field, part of your field. This is the deeper magic, the part few talk about. When you make a sigil, you're not just creating a magical tool, you're editing your energetic blueprint. Your aura shifts, your frequency shifts, your subconscious recalibrates. And from there, the world has no choice but to respond differently. You walk differently, You speak with more alignment. You make choices in subtle new ways. And through those micro shifts, the macro world bends. That's how manifestation works. Not from above, not from below, but from within. So next time you feel your sigil isn't working, pause. Look inward. What version of you released it? What emotional frequency did it carry? Are you still chasing or are you trusting? Because the astral isn't late, it's precise. It responds when you're aligned, not when you're anxious. Your job isn't to force results, it's to become the vibration of your intention and allow the rest to unfold. The astral imprint is already made. The world is catching up. Let's be honest. Most people try sigil magic once and give up. They say it didn't work. Nothing happened. They felt nothing. No miracles, no signs, no cosmic shift. And so they decide, this isn't real. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. It's not the sigil that failed. It's the frequency behind it. Because sigil magic, like all energetic work, isn't about doing it right. It's about doing it aligned. The symbol on paper is meaningless without the vibration you pour into it. The ritual means nothing if you're filled with doubt, contradiction, or emotional static. So let's get real. Let's explore why so many sigils don't work and how to finally make them unstoppable. 1. The intention is vague, weak, or contradictory. If your intention sounds like, I hope this works. I kind of want to manifest money, but I'm not sure. I guess I'd like to be happy, maybe someday. You've already lost. Sigils are lasers, not flashlights. They work on precision. The subconscious responds to clarity, not confusion. So when you create your sigil, ask, asterisk, is my desire clear? Asterisk, is it present tense? Asterisk, is it emotionally true? The universe cannot deliver what you haven't fully decided on. 2. The emotion behind it is weak or misaligned. Energy is not moved by logic, it's moved by emotion. If you create a sigil in a flat, bored, disconnected state, it won't carry charge. If you charge it with anxiety, scarcity, or desperation, it will reproduce that exact energy. The emotional state during charging is what gets imprinted into the astral, not just the desire, but the frequency of the desire. Are you broadcasting, I trust and embody this, or I'm terrified and hoping for a fix? The energy behind the act is the spell. 3. You don't believe it's possible. This is the big one, and the most common. You go through the motions, draw the symbol, charge it, but deep down, you don't believe it'll work. Maybe you say, this is just a test. I'll see if this magic stuff is real. I hope this changes my life, but I'm not holding my breath. That mindset? It's poison to the subconscious. Because the subconscious is not logical, it's responsive. It receives energy as fact. If your conscious mind says, I believe, but your body says, I doubt, your body wins. And the field responds to your true vibration, not your performance. This is why inner work, shadow healing, and self-trust are essential. It's not about forcing belief. It's about dissolving the resistance that blocks it. 4. You obsess over the outcome. You release the sigil, then check your phone every day. You look for signs. You start panicking if nothing happens. You smother the process with attachment. And here's the irony. The more you chase the outcome, the more you confirm you don't believe it's already yours. This creates friction. It tells the universe, I need this, I don't have it yet. I'm not whole without it. And that's the reality you amplify. Remember, sigils are vibrational instructions. If your vibration says lack, that's what returns. If your vibration says it is done, the field moves to reflect that truth. 5. You forgot that you are the power source. A sigil is not magic on its own. It's a mirror, a mechanism, a code. But you are the electricity that powers it. If you treat the sigil like a vending machine, input a desire, expect a reward, you're missing the point. The symbol only works when you become its embodiment. You must walk, speak, feel, and act in harmony with what it represents. Because here's the secret. The sigil doesn't make things happen. It changes you. And when you change, your reality does too. How to fix it? So, how do you finally make your sigils work? 1. Clarity is king. Asterisk. Write a desire that is short, strong, present tense, and emotionally charged. 2. Charge in a heightened state. Asterisk. Use breath, movement, emotion, or trance to feel it into the field. 3. Align your frequency. Asterisk. Do the inner work to dissolve doubt, fear, and subconscious sabotage. 4. Release with trust. Asterisk. Don't chase the result. Embody the version of you who already has it. 5. Live it. Asterisk. Your actions must echo your intention. Every step after the ritual is a continuation of the spell. There is no external magic. There is only you and your willingness to step into the role of creator. Once you drop the obsession, release the fear, and trust the process, sigils become more than symbols. They become reality codes, and you become the spell. We live in a world bathed in symbols. You see them everywhere, even if you don't realize it. The glowing icons on your phone, the shapes of logos, the arrangements of colors, fonts, and forms. Most of them don't look magical, but they are. Welcome to the age of unconscious sigils. In the past, you had to draw a sigil by hand. You had to sit in silence, gather your will, encode your desire. It was sacred, slow, intentional. But now, the world runs on digital symbols, and nearly all of them are charged not by rituals, but by collective attention. Every time you tap a logo, every time you scroll past a symbol, every time you gaze at an image while in an emotional state, you are feeding it. You are participating in modern magic, whether you know it or not. Because the rules of sigils haven't changed, only the medium has. Sigils in logos, brands, and culture. Have you ever wondered why corporate logos feel so hypnotic? The golden arches, the bitten apple, the triangle inside a circle, the all-seeing eye. These aren't accidents. Designers are trained in color theory, geometry, neuro-linguistic priming. But on a deeper level, even if they don't consciously know it, they're creating modern sigils. These logos are asterisk simplified glyphs, designed to bypass thought, asterisk charged with emotion through advertising and repetition, asterisk reinforced constantly by millions of people seeing them daily. This is mass-scale sigil magic. And it works not because of occult conspiracy, but because of universal law. Focus equals energy. Emotion equals charge. Repetition equals imprint. Now think about how often you see certain symbols. Think about how much emotion you've poured into them. Desire, status, envy, aspiration. You didn't draw those sigils, but you helped power them. This is how unconscious magic works. Using digital spaces for personal sigil work. Now here's the empowering truth. If symbols can work in digital space, you can use them intentionally. You no longer need candles, parchment, and silence to cast a sigil. You have a screen, you have pixels, you have attention. You can create a digital sigil and set it as your phone wallpaper. Embed it in a video or piece of art you interact with daily. Use subtle symbols in your online content. Print it out and place it on your vision board or under your pillow. Display it on your smart mirror or background during meditation. The important part is this: the device doesn't matter. The state of consciousness you're in when engaging with the sigil does. If you meditate while looking at your sigil, if you visualize your intention while breathing in front of it, if you see it every morning and remember who you're becoming, then it's working. It's feeding the field. It's reinforcing the signal. You don't need analog tools to perform ancient magic. You need presence. Are social media algorithms magical systems? This may sound strange, but consider this. You post a message. You attach a symbol, image, video, emoji. You embed emotion in it. Joy, rage, love, desire. People respond. Energy amplifies. The message spreads. This is a ritual. The algorithm doesn't understand language. It understands patterns. And the most viral posts, the ones that circle the globe, are digital spells. They affect mood. They influence belief. They shape behavior. And most are accidental, unconscious, fueled by attention without awareness. But what happens when a magician uses this system with intention? What happens when you encode your sigil into a post, a story, a piece of digital art, and charge it with focus, clarity, and presence? What happens when you infuse energy into digital reality? It moves. Because the field does not discriminate between physical and virtual. The astral responds to emotion, thought, and symbol no matter the medium. Digital sigil practice in a hyper-connected age. Here's how to take your magic into the modern world. 1. Design your sigil digitally. Use apps, styluses, or software to shape your intention into symbol. 2. Charge it through interaction. Breathe with it. Meditate on it. Place it somewhere you'll see during sacred practice. 3. Infuse it into your world. Phone lock screen. Email signature. Instagram bio art. Album cover. Poster in your room. 4. Combine with sound and movement. Play binaural beats, chant your intention, or pair the sigil with motion. 5. Release it into the feed. Post it. Let it go. Forget it. Let the collective amplify the wave. The new magician is not cloaked in robes. They wear headphones. They carry smartphones. They code intention into pixels. And the magic still works. Because it always has. So stop asking if you can do magic in the digital age. You already are. The only question is, will you do it consciously or keep feeding someone else's sigils? You've seen how sigils work as personal tools, glyphs of transformation, born from your own mind, fueled by your own energy. But what happens When a sigil is charged not by one person, but by many, what happens when it doesn't just live on paper, but begins to breathe, to evolve, to think? Welcome to the realm of living sigils and the immense, often misunderstood power of group intention. Because, make no mistake, just as an individual can encode will into a symbol, so can a collective. And when that happens, you're no longer dealing with a personal spell. You're dealing with a conscious force. The birth of a living sigil. A living sigil begins the same way as any other, with intention. But instead of one mind shaping it, multiple minds focus on the same goal, the same shape, the same desire. Each person adds their energy, their emotion, their breath, their belief, and something starts to shift. The symbol becomes more than a memory trigger. It becomes a vessel, a container for the group's collective energy, a bridge between shared mind and the field of manifestation. It begins to take on a life of its own, not metaphorically, but energetically. Because where attention flows, consciousness emerges. Talismans, servitors, and egregores. The ancients had names for this phenomenon. They called them talismans, objects or symbols imbued with power, often blessed or charged by entire temples or priesthoods. In chaos magic, they're known as servitors, intentionally created energetic entities born from symbol and purpose. And at a much larger scale, they become egregores. An egregore is a thought form born from collective belief, a symbol so infused with energy, meaning, and repetition that it becomes autonomous. It begins to influence people, to generate synchronicities, to attract energy toward itself. Not because it's conscious like a human, but because it's powered by human consciousness. You've seen this without knowing. A national flag, a religious icon, a movement's logo, a viral meme. These are not just symbols, they are living frequencies. The dangerous side of collective sigils. Here's where things get uncomfortable. Because not all living sigils are benevolent. If a group pours its energy into a symbol rooted in fear, anger, or division, the egregore reflects that. It amplifies those emotions. It pulls others into its field. It begins to shape reality to match its vibration. This is how mass propaganda works. This is how cults are formed. This is how digital mobs are summoned. But it also means we can do the opposite. We can create living sigils of unity, healing, and awakening. We can craft symbols not just as art, but as anchors for the new paradigm. This is where real power begins. Group sigil rituals. How to do it consciously. Imagine this. You gather a group online or in person. Everyone brings the same intention: peace, abundance, creativity, healing. You design a sigil together, or you all draw it individually based on the same phrase. You breathe together. You focus. You charge it through movement, meditation, or sound. Then you release it. You share the symbol on social media. You display it in your space. You wear it, tattoo it, embed it. It becomes a living transmission. And every time someone new sees it, if they resonate, they reinforce it. The sigil becomes alive in the field. You've now done more than cast a spell. You've birthed a current, a subtle energy wave moving through consciousness, realigning the world one resonant moment at a time. Why this matters now more than ever. We live in a time where attention is harvested, where symbols are used against us, where corporate egregores manipulate desire, where collective focus is scattered and hijacked. But the solution isn't to retreat. It's to reclaim the current, to use the same tools with clarity, sovereignty, and purpose, to create conscious symbols backed by love and wisdom and infuse them into our shared world, not to dominate, not to convert, but to vibrate. Because energy doesn't lie. A sigil charged with integrity transmits. And the more we embed these living codes into our art, our platforms, our spaces, the more we reshape the unseen web behind reality. So ask yourself, asterisk, what would happen if 10,000 people charged the same sigil for peace? Asterisk, for planetary healing? Asterisk, for awakening? Asterisk, for remembrance? We've done it with brands, with belief systems, with empires. Now it's time to do it consciously, together. All this time, you thought you were learning about symbols, about the hidden science of manifestation, about drawing lines on paper, about casting spells through intention and form. But now at the end of the path, you're starting to see the real truth, the deepest secret. You were never using sigils. You are one. Look in the mirror. You are a symbol, a multidimensional glyph, a walking frequency encoded in flesh and breath and memory. From the spiral of your DNA, to the geometry of your chakras, to the energy that flows from your thoughts, your voice, your touch. You are a living transmission, a bridge between worlds, a spell that speaks itself into being every time you choose to awaken. This isn't metaphor. This is the final layer of remembrance. You don't need ink and parchment to perform magic. You don't need candles or rituals or ancient grimoires. You only need to be conscious of what you radiate. Because every word you speak, every choice you make, every vibration you embody, is a sigil cast into the field. Your thoughts are glyphs of creation. When you think a thought, you're not just observing reality. You're shaping it. Thought is not passive. It's formative. It carries a charge, a signature, a frequency that enters the quantum field and begins arranging atoms accordingly. And when a thought is repeated, charged with emotion held in focus, it becomes a personal sigil, not drawn but lived. So the question becomes, what symbols are you living? What beliefs are you engraving into the field? Because your beliefs are glyphs, your patterns are spells, your life is the spell book. Your body is sacred geometry in motion. The architecture of your form isn't random. Your hands are tools of energy. Your voice is a tuning fork. Your spine is a serpent of light. Your eyes are portals. When you dance, when you breathe with intention, when you move in rhythm with sound, you're casting sigils through movement. Every gesture carries meaning. Every step is a mark on the astral. Every breath is an invocation. The yogis knew this. The shamans lived this. The mystics wrote it in secret alphabets because the truth was too powerful for the profane. But you're here to remember. You are a living glyph, animated by consciousness. Your presence is your spell. You don't need to convince anyone of your magic. You only need to embody it. When you walk into a room aligned, whole, sovereign people feel it. You don't need to speak. Your frequency speaks louder. This is the highest form of sigil magic. To become so resonant, so intentional, so awakened, that your presence rewrites the energy of every space you enter. That's not charisma, that's not psychology. That's energetic mastery. You've become the symbol, the code, the conduit. The world responds. not because of what you do, but because of what you are. You were born to be a living symbol. Every scar you carry, every lesson you've integrated, every truth you've had to remember in the dark, has shaped you into the sigil you are now. Unique, powerful, encoded with memory and purpose. You didn't come here to blend in. You came to transmit. You are a signal, a beacon from another plane, a symbol of what humanity is becoming. You don't need to say the right words. You don't need to draw anything at all. All you need to do is remember that you are the sigil, you are the voice, you are the vibration. This isn't the end, it's the activation. Now that you know, what will you do? You could close this chapter, file it away, forget it. Or you could look around your life, your thoughts, your actions, and ask, what am I casting? What am I embodying? What am I radiating? You could create symbols not just on paper, but in everything you touch, your words, your work, your relationships, your energy. Because in this age, magic is no longer about hiding in temples. It's about walking in the world awakened. The new magician doesn't wear robes. They wear presence. They don't summon gods. They remember they are fragments of God, conscious and whole. They don't draw sigils. They are the sigil. You are the intention. You are the light. You are the code. So the next time you sit in stillness, the next time you feel the whisper that there's something more, remember, you don't need permission to be powerful. You don't need a teacher to remember. You came encoded. The spell has already been written into your bones. And now you are beginning to speak it again. With every breath, with every choice, with every moment of remembrance. This is not the end. It is the ignition. You are not becoming magic. You always were.